Okay, my name is Richard Armstrong. I grew up in a little town north of here called Campsville, Illinois, with 300 souls in it. And I joined the Navy in December of 1942 after I graduated from high school, and waited until I was 18 so I could go into the regular Navy instead of just the reserves. And after graduating from boot camp, I put in for aerial gunnery school and was fortunate enough to get it. And before that I went to the ordnance school, aviation ordnance school, to learn the machine guns, and then to Jacksonville, Florida for my aerial gunner training at Yellowwater. And then from there I went out into the Pacific to NAS Kaneohe as an instructor in the gunnery school. When I graduated from gunnery school, they told me they were going to train me as an instructor. The training amounted to going through the class again. Then after Hawaii, I spent the entire war in Hawaii. They sent me back to the States right about 3 months before the war ended because they decided to shut the school down, that they didn't need any more aerial gunners. And after the war, they sent us to school just to get us off the street until we get straightened out with how many people they were going to have left. So I went to Jacksonville, Florida, to aviation fire control school, and after that transferred to a squadron in San Diego, got on the USS Saratoga and went to a Westpac cruise to Australia. So I got to cross the equator, and I crossed it at the international date line, which is kind of unique. And so I was in the aircraft squadron for quite a while, and then I finally worked my way into getting another school, so I went down to Jacksonville, Florida, and went to another school just to keep me off the street. So I spent most of my time either in school or in a classroom. This is my old guard belt, and pants. I very seldom carried this stuff because it was the wrong, I was not in that type of duty. Main reason I had this guard belt was when I was standing shore patrol, which is my badge over there. And some of this items here, this is a pair of regulation shoes, which are very comfortable, I might say. Over here is my badge from the USS Hancock, is the aircraft carrier that I retired off of. And the badges, the radioman badge is my older brother, the guided missile badge is mine, the radar man is my oldest son, the ordnance is one of mine, and the A5 and the sergeant stripes is my younger brother. So all three of our boys were in the service. And over here is just a certificate I got when we crossed the equator on the way to Australia, which makes you a shellback instead of a pollywog. And that we had a complete air group, a task force, going across the equator at the same time. There was 2 aircraft carriers, 3 cruisers, 10 destroyers, and the service vessels was with us. And we stayed back and forth across the border for 3 days, just celebrating. It was quite unique from what I understand. Very seldom they did that. But they wanted us to be able to cross the equator north to south, south to north, east to west, west to east. And then the aircraft carrier, they managed to let the pilots take off on the north side, land on the south side, take off on the south side and land on the north side. We had quite a time down there crossing the equator, I tell you. It was a lot of fun getting initiated in the shellback, because some of the stuff they did to you is, I don't even want to say about it, you know. And after that I was in the aircraft squadrons the SB-2C dive bombers. I was in 2 squadrons of those, 2 squadrons of the Corsair, F-4U Corsairs, while I was attached to the aircraft carrier. And after I got out of that, I transferred to the East Coast and got into the PB-4Y-2 aircraft as a guided missile technician. Incidentally, between that time and I attended the guided missile school because I figured guided missiles was going to be the way the Navy was going. So I got to go to guided missile school and transferred into the VP-24, the only guided missile squadron they had at the time. And the missile we had was called the BAT. And it's not very well known. It's a little plywood airframe with a 1,000-pound bomb in it and a radar nose. And it came out right at the end of World War II. I'm not sure whether it actually made it into any combat, but at the time that was the first and only guided missile that they had. And I was in that squadron at Patuxent River for 4 years, and we bombed an old sunken ship down in Pimlico Sound. It was for training. So. And then we come over here a little bit, and this is my wife, Evelyn. She was a cadet nurse, got into it in 1943, and then graduated just about the time the war was over. So she went into nursing and stayed into nursing until she retired just a couple of years ago. She has now passed away. And
That's it.
That's about it, I guess.